Hey there, Shadow Penguin, back with another Skyrim build. However, this time there is a twist. Yes, I've decided to bite the proverbial bullet and do a build of Michael from the Fudgemuppet team. Now, I'm not sure if anyone else has done this concept, but it must have been very tempting. It is very tempting to do a build of one of the biggest Skyrim builders or the biggest Skyrim builder on YouTube, in fact, or one of two of them, or three of them now, considering there's now a third member of Fudgemuppet. So I hope you'll find this quite humorous. I try to incorporate the fact that he's a Skyrim builder into the backstory of my build. So anyway, let's get cracking. So Michael was born in the 4th era to a middle-class merchant family in the Imperial City, as the younger of 2 brothers. It was always their parents' aspiration that his older brother would take over the family business, a clothier's, when their father was too old to continue, and that the younger son, Michael, would find a craft of his own. This was fortuitous, as our build did not have the analytical brain or practical outlook on life to run a business, but this did not mean that he was not mentally astute, as he had an enviable academic record and an active imagination. As a result, he began to feel the matter of his schoolbooks restrictive and would spend hours by candlelight reading scholarly pieces on fascinating aspects of Tamriel's history, sociology and theology, with works such as the Atlas of Dragons, Night of Tears and Physicalities of Werewolves being just a few of the titles which piqued his interest on history, magic and anatomy. However, this knowledge was not going to earn our build money, so when he left home, after the completion of his education, Michael sought a conduit through which he could earn money through his prodigious intellect. He eventually fell to adapting works such as Songs of the Return into historical fiction to make them relevant for a contemporary audience. This was a very welcome deviation from the scholarly articles reserved purely for intellectuals, and although his work was looked down on by the preeminent scholars, our build began to gain a cult following within Cyrodiil. His popularity spiked when he took this concept a step further and began the work for which he was best known. He started to write accounts of fictional, contemporary warriors like those of old, except active in the context of that time, using the knowledge he had accumulated on the different cultures of Tamriel. Soon, aspiring adventurers would use these guides as a template for their own future and career, paying good money for copies of these parchments. It was only a couple of years before warriors and mages of all kinds were arriving in the Imperial City from all over Tamriel to take inspiration from his work. A rich man, Michael was still unable to avoid the horror that lay in wait for all writers. Writer's block. Unable to think of original ideas, our build realised that he had to venture outside his home province and become a true adventurer like those he wrote about, if he was to recapture the magic which made his work so popular. In order to achieve this end, he began combat training, using swords and shields far heavier than the ones he would eventually use, so that he could swing his sword swiftly in battle, and built up his stamina so that he could run long distances whilst encumbered with his weapons and armour. Through study of magical tomes, our build realised that he had an aptitude for magic, particularly in the alteration and restoration schools. Finally, he was ready, and with the sword in his scabbard and writing paper in his backpack, he set off for Skyrim. Surely a nation plagued with civil war had some real stories of bravery and misfortune to awe his readers. On the way, he met up with some Stormcloak guerrillas, who agreed to let him follow them as he was researching their struggle for his latest literary foray. The fact that he was nifty with a sword and had an extensive knowledge of healing spells certainly helped. However, the group was ambushed at Darkwater Pass and taken to Helgen for execution. From there, your story begins. So the stat spread for this build is 40% health, 40% stamina and 20% magicka. The stamina is for power bashes with your shield, and relatively low magicka is fine, as alteration and restoration are less magicka intensive compared to schools such as destruction. Your gear will be any robes that make you feel affluent. You could choose a variant of fine robes, partied robes, whatever tickles your fancy, and a circlet. I've chosen a Mage's Circlet to buff Magicka, as it is lower than the other stats. For weapons, use a glass sword until you can get your hands on Chillrend and a glass shield. Remember, our build is rich, and so only the best equipment will do. The main skills for this build are block for your shield, alteration and restoration, speech to symbolise your way with words, and one-handed for your sword. All 5 tiers of armsman will be necessary to buff sword damage, as well as the perk that attributes extra bleeding damage to your sword, but not much beyond that. In terms of quests, Michael will be doing the main quest line, as he is thrilled at the stories he read about the Dragonborn and dragons were more than just simple conjecture. He will also join the companions, as he feels that there will be many stories of bravery and honour within the guild, that he can incorporate towards his builds. In terms of the Civil War questline, he is an Imperial, so he feels a certain draw towards his countrymen. Not only that, but he spent a significant amount of time with the Stormcloaks before his capture, and wishes to gain a balanced view of the conflict. As the war progresses, he realises the necessity of a united empire. Thank you very much for watching this build. Hopefully you found it refreshingly different. Don't forget to rate the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Also comment down below if you have a build idea you'd like me to implement in the future. See you next time with another video.